Hello and welcome to the Smart Connections podcast and the Talk the Path podcast. My name is Anna Sanderlin. I am a warm-line facilitator for the University of Memphis Smart Center. The University of Memphis School of Social Work Smart Research, Training, and Treatment Center aims to provide evidence-based interventions for school-based mental health programming, increase access for school-based behavioral health programming in underserved areas, offer training on best practices in telebehavioral health, develop opportunities to research the use of technology in practice, and provide direct services to the state's most vulnerable populations. You can call the Smart Center at 901-678-1636. The University of Memphis Smart Center, in conjunction with the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, and the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, would like to present the Pathways to Behavioral Health Careers Project. The goals of the Pathways Project are to provide education and information on the various career opportunities in the field of behavioral health through presentations, increase interest in students in the field of behavioral health, provide opportunities for guidance with information regarding college, university programming that result in degrees for professions in the field of behavioral health, connect students with students in behavioral health programs and professionals in the field for further research. This podcast will feature students and professionals in the field to give a clear picture of the daily duties of these roles and how they help support their communities.
So my name is Jessica Youngblom. I serve as the Director of Strategic Initiatives with the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. I've been with the department for just over 4 years, serving in this role. Prior to coming to the department, I was over the coordinated entry system process with Nashville Metro County Government. And prior to that, I was working in homelessness services in Los Angeles.
Thank you so much. Matt, could you also share as well?
Yeah. Well, Christy, nice to meet you. Matt Yancey, have the privilege of serving as Deputy Commissioner for Behavioral Health Community Programs with the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. In my role, I provide leadership for our Division of Mental Health Services, our Division of Children and Youth Mental Health, our Division of Substance Abuse Services, and work closely with Jessica and our Office of Strategic Initiatives. I've been with the department a little over 8 years. My background is fairly varied. I started off working in child welfare right out of college. Spent 5-6 years working in child protective services. And then I started to work for a school district called the Cobb County School District in Georgia, where I was a school social worker. And then I moved while at the school district into more leadership roles. I had the opportunity to oversee a federal grant initiative called Safe Schools, Healthy Students there with the school district. And then I went back to the state. I rejoined state government with the Georgia Department of Public Health, where I was the director of the Office of Adolescent and School Health, doing a lot of primary prevention work. And then joined the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health, where I was the Children's Mental Health Director for the state, and then moved up here to Tennessee in 2015 and have been with the department ever since. So that's a little bit about me.
Well, thank you so much for that very quick but expansive overview of history. You actually jumped ahead of me. One of our first questions is telling us about your career pathway. But first, I do want to just pull back a little bit and thank you both for giving us this time today. I know that you have so much going on, and I am just so excited to have two esteemed professionals on with us today. It has been a wondrous journey seeing all of the different pathways from the different professionals. And so to finally get individuals who have had kind of a guiding light of sort in this profession is a wonderful culmination of what we've done this previous year and a wonderful onset for what we hope to do in the next year. So thank you both for being here. And if you could, as we move forward, as much as the commissioner allows you to share, when you share your personal, professional information and journeys, please feel free to share that information in regards to what's connected to the commissioner. So the first question is, I just want to know a little bit about your journey to your career pathway. And so whoever feels comfortable, please go first.
Ladies first. Yes.
So my pathway to get where I am today is a bit kind of like Matt said, varied. So I always knew I wanted to go into the helping field, but I had no idea what that looked like. I come from a family that didn't have very much, but worked really hard and was always willing to help those out, even if it meant, taking our own shirt off our back and providing it to someone in need. And so I was very much ingrained with that helper mentality. So I actually went to college thinking I was going to go into biology and become a genetics counselor, and soon realized that chemistry and I were not friends. And so I started taking a bunch of general courses just to figure out what I was going to do. And took a social movements course with a professor that just changed my viewpoint on life in general. And so I pursued my sociology degree and did some volunteering and figured out, I'm going to go and get my master's in social work. And so when I was getting my master's, I knew pretty early on I did not want to do clinical social work, but I had no idea or thought process that I would do macro level social work. I really liked the in between, kind of doing clinical work, but kind of doing some program oversight. And so during my graduate studies, I did an internship with some schools, and then I interned with a runaway and homeless youth serving provider, and that's really where my passion grew. And so homelessness services was something that I was very much intrigued with, and luckily when I got out of graduate school, was able to be a program manager at one of the local homeless shelters for families and their children. And so my passion kind of grew from there. And then when I moved here to Nashville in 2016, was lucky enough to get on with the city of Nashville doing similar work. And just through connections and the people, your path takes you to different places. And so the Commissioner Williams actually called and offered me the position here. And now I'm really doing macro level social work. Never thought I would work for state government, but it's been the best job I've ever had. So that's kind of my journey in a nutshell.
Wow. I must say, hearing you talk about the different sparks, that initiate a journey of service is so warming to hear, because I must, like, a lot of the people that we've talked to, they were very sure early on where they wanted to go and what they wanted to do. So to hear that sometimes your initiation or the things that create this, pathway happen, even when it's not intentional or some type of exposure, is really awesome to hear, because we have to validate that type of pathway. Everyone does not have it figured out. Everyone is not sure from the get-go their 5, 10, 15-year pathway. So I really love to hear that. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
It provides a really good launching pad for people who are just, I know there's things that I'm interested in, and I know there's things that provide the hard work for me versus I have a legacy that I'm joining or things like that. So I love that you were able to share that and know that you've ended up here,
Yeah.
like, that's huge. So thank you for sharing that. Matt, did you hear as well?
Yeah. Well, I went to a small liberal arts college in Rome, Georgia called Berry College. And I went there primarily because I was offered a baseball scholarship. And like most college students, I think by your junior year, you have to declare a major. I knew a couple of things. I knew, similar to Jess, I didn't want to major anything that required a lot of math or science, because that was not my skill set. So I ended up majoring in anthropology, of all things, and graduated with a degree in anthropology, and didn't really know what I wanted to do after graduating. At that point, being 22, I think my friend group and we wanted to move to Buckhead in Atlanta. That's what we wanted to do.
Oh, okay.
We didn't have jobs. If you know anything about Atlanta, that's kind of an expensive area to live. We were, young, tow-headed 22-year-old kids. But nonetheless, I did have a friend that worked for the Floyd County Department of Family and Children's Services there in Rome, Georgia. And he said, have you ever thought about working for the DCS system? We called it DFACS in Georgia. Mm-hmm. And I said, no. And he said, well, it's a really great job because they give you, this was before the pervasive use of cell phones. They give mm-hmm. you a walkie-talkie. You don't have to sit in the office all day. You actually make home visits, you travel around, and you work with children and families. And I said, you know what, that sounds like something I may be interested in. I'll give it a shot. Mm-hmm. So I graduated like most people on a Saturday, and then that following Monday started working for Floyd County DFACS as a caseworker. I was assigned about a caseload of 50 families where abuse and neglect had been substantiated. I was a family preservation caseworker. And back in those days, you would start the job, you would be on the job for a couple weeks, then they would send you to a 2-week training. You'd come back, you would continue on the job, and then maybe a month later, you would go back to a 2-week training, and then you were good to go. And I still think back, you know, how unprepared I was to do that job at 22. But there are a couple of things that I learned that first year, one of which is that in so many situations where there's child maltreatment, child abuse, neglect, you have the pervasive use of substances. You often see unmet mental health needs, percolate and lead to situations where there's abuse and neglect. And for me, growing up in a family where mental illness and substance use was pretty prevalent, I thought, you know what, this may be something I want to stick with, because I knew the impact of it. And that first year, towards the end of my first year with Floyd County DFACS, I had the opportunity to go back to graduate school for free. Georgia has a Title IV-E grant program similar to Tennessee, where if you're a child welfare professional and you want to advance your education, the state would pay for you to do it. And I was approached with that opportunity. I asked if I could go to the University of Georgia. They said yes. And I said, sign me up. And I did my master's of social work at UGA, courtesy of the state. And then while there, interned with the local DCS office in Athens, Georgia, and then had to commit time back to the state after I graduated, which I did. And that just kind of set me in the trajectory I've been on for the past 22 years. I graduated with my MSW, continued my work in child welfare. I actually went back to school, though, to get a second graduate degree in public administration because I knew I wanted to be in more leadership-oriented roles. And the MSW program I was in at UGA had a clinical focus. So I went back to school and got a master's in public administration. And then that's when I moved into working with the school district, doing student support programming, but had my first real big kind of leadership role in overseeing a large $12 million grant called Safe Schools, Healthy Students, where we basically embedded community mental health providers, local law enforcement, probation officers to work in the school setting, to work with kids, to help create safer, healthier learning environments. And just from there, that kind of springboarded me into other leadership roles. I went back to the state working for the Georgia Department of Public Health, got to do state level work around childhood obesity prevention, asthma control, sexual violence prevention, and then went back to behavioral health and worked for the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities as the Children's Mental Health Director for the state. The cool thing about that opportunity was that maybe my second week on the job, our budget director, Christy, came to me and said, "You got a problem, Matt. You've got about $25 million you need to spend by the end of the fiscal year." And I said, "Well, that doesn't sound like a problem. That sounds like an opportunity." And basically what we did there in Georgia is created a school-based mental health program called the Georgia Apex program with those funds. I wanted to kind of take what we did in Cobb County at the school district there and bring it to the state. And we did that. And, it's interesting because here in Tennessee, we're doing very similar work with our school-based behavioral health liaison expansion. There's a lot of momentum and excitement and interest around school-based behavioral health programming, which is a lot of my background. So that's kind of the way I got into what I'm doing now. But really, the short and skinny of it is, like so many of us, mental illness and substance use has just impacted my family. I always say every branch of my family tree has been touched by behavioral health issues. And it's just something I'm incredibly passionate about, and feel very fortunate to be in the role that I'm in now to help affect change on a statewide level.
You highlight something that I think is not noted as much in professional channels, linking someone who has a very tenable connection to why this work is important. We all have people that we know or family members that we're connected to who have struggled or who have had unmet needs in regards to mental health services. So it's so important to be connected to the right people, the right community aid networks, the right individuals who are doing this work. I heard both of you mention early on that individuals or processes were pivotal to getting you on either the pathway or solidifying, next steps and advancements. And I think that that's something that is not highlighted as much. And so something like this, pathways, I think is so important in noting the different parts to getting individuals who are right for particular processes, for particular projects, for particular changes in ideology and approaches, to make sure it essentially is implemented the appropriate way, or oversight is done to make sure it advances, forward. So to hear you, talk about early on that connection when you were like, hey, I knew I like this, I'm young, and there's this particular place that I want to be, but for your particular journey, you found someone or something that was this real connection that you had the foresight to understand this is what the change looks like based off of the connections that I have or the people that I know who need this type of work. Is something that I wish for so many in our field, because we do come across so many students who are in the field because of past exposure to family members who never got the help that they need, or they were seeking help and services just weren't up to par in that moment. But they exist, and there are people who are working to make the necessary changes, and people who adhere to fidelity of all these different models that get us to the outcomes that we want. So knowing that the right connections with the right people in the right position is just so, heartwarming to hear. So, thank you so much for sharing that. So I'm going to change up the next question a little bit. The next question is actually like, to say, do you always know what you wanted to be? I would like you both to respond to how once you got into your, the position that let you know, hey, this is my hard work, this is where I need to be. What got you to stay? Because, let's be real, this is some serious work. And it's not always rewarding on the levels of everything is done the way that we know is the right way, right? Like there's just so much help, such a high level of need, so many, levels of red tape to get to what we know is evidence-based practices that work. What made you stay in these positions and keep churning it out to get to where you are today?
Yeah, I'll start. I think for me, going throughout my career, there have definitely been times where it's been like, gosh, what am I doing? But I think being the voice for people who don't have one has always been one that has motivated me. Growing up, I had a lot of family members who needed a lot of help and they didn't know how to ask for it. And so being a person that can create options for people that don't know how to ask for the help just really drives me every day. I would say in my current position, I feel very lucky to be able to be in a space where I'm able to come up with new ideas to reach people we're not reaching. So I feel like a lot of the work that I'm doing with the team that I've been provided is how do we reach the hardest to reach, whether that's out in the rural communities or if it's in low income places or whatever it may be. And I just think providing that voice to the voiceless or to those that don't know how to ask for help is really what keeps me going.
Oh yes, that just steals my heart because those that are unreachable often have the highest need, for across generations, across families. So to have someone in place that recognizes that at a position that can influence policy and change, it feels so great to hear. And I think would be, you know, what is the word? Like amplify those who want to get into the field because a lot of times we are worker bees, we are trying to figure out like what are we supposed to do? What have we been taught? What did we learn in school? So to have individuals who are connected to the ears of those who can influence people who make funding decisions or policy decisions and know that the voiceless are just as important and who should drive the work, who are the ones that we should be working to contact just as much as those who are seeking out services is so refreshing to hear because a lot of times individuals who live in those rural communities or who have these cyclical needs in mental health services who are unheard for so long, who we see often in these small little moments when there's a crisis, is really important to hear that we have long-term, real, substantial plans to incorporate their voice. So thank you so much for sharing that. Matt, can you share a little bit?
Yeah. I think what motivates me is that we're continuing to lose too many people in our state to what we refer to as deaths of despair. Between deaths by suicide, people who experience fatal overdose, I mean, it's probably about 12 Tennesseans a day are dying due to these unmet behavioral health needs. And that's what really keeps me showing up each and every day, trying to do my best to increase access to high quality evidence-based services and supports. That's my primary motivation for sure. I think the other thing, Christy, that keeps me coming back for more is that I've been very fortunate to have exceptional leaders to work for. And, our Commissioner, Marie Williams, has been with our department at 24 years. She's incredibly knowledgeable, well-respected, and never rests in her efforts to make sure that people in our state have access to treatment and that they're on the pathway to recovery and resiliency. And I can't say enough about her leadership for our department. We've all been in jobs in our past where, Sunday night, you're not even enjoying the weekend because you're so apprehensive about coming back to work Monday. And I can tell you, there's not been one day in 8 years of me being with this department that I have not looked forward to coming to work the next day because there's just so many opportunities, as Jess was explaining. The other thing we're fortunate for, Christy, in our state is we have, governors and people in the legislature who have invested significantly in the public behavioral health system. And it's just a really unique opportunity to be with this department in this day and age where you've got policymakers and people who hold the purse strings investing in behavioral health in ways that we've never seen before. Is unprecedented. So to be in a position like Jessica and I are in, where we can help shape programs that these funds support and help, again, create programming in areas of the state that has historically been underserved. I'm sure we'll talk about in a few minutes some of the funding that we've recently received to help bolster the behavioral health workforce. It's just an unbelievable opportunity. And then the last thing I would say, the not only have we seen upticks in deaths by overdose and suicide, it's just people today understand behavioral health, I think, more so than they have in the past. More people are interested in mental health topics. More people are saying, hey, I need help. I think stigma is starting to abate. So it's just a really important time to be in the field because we've got not only more resources than we've ever had, you've got more people saying, hey, we want to help. We want to play a role. Or, hey, you know what? I may need help myself. And that has not always been the case within the behavioral health system. So there's a lot of work left to be done. But it's also there's a lot of opportunities that again I've never seen in my career that we're blessed to have now.
What do you attribute that to? I really feel as you, and thank you for honestly solidifying that for me, that more people are willing to seek help, that we are more prepared to give help, that we have better leaders who are more informed and focused in this realm. And I've often wondered, is it due to just the expansive nature of media talking about it, taking it on? Is it better educational initiatives? What would you all attribute to that change?
I would say all of the above. I think the pandemic obviously did a number on a lot of things. One of the positive things that came out of it, though, is I think people started to recognize that there's no health without mental health. Mm. And when everyone was being forced to quarantine and schools were being closed, I think these issues really started to surface. Mm-hmm. And I think it just led to more people talking about it. Mm-hmm. And that has helped, I think, abate the stigma. Mm-hmm. Jess, I'd be interested in what you have to offer on that. I think the other thing, Christy, quite honestly, is that the medical community and primary care providers, I think they're starting to see how unmet behavioral health needs often manifest into physical health issues. Mm-hmm. So I think even within the medical community, where in the past you probably had a sense of, there's the brain and the body are disconnected and we don't deal with mental health issues. I think medical providers are now saying we've got to address these because they're contributing to so many physical elements. Mm-hmm. So you've got more interest in the medical community around behavioral health as well. But those are some things that come to my mind. Jess, would you have anything you would add to that?
Yeah, the thing I would add, I would say, at least for Tennessee, I feel like we, do a lot of work around stigma reduction and just education on these various topics out in the community. And I think one of the ways that we've done well to do this is through our peer-led efforts. We certify individuals in long-term recovery from both mental health and substance use. And in most of our contracts, we require our providers to hire individuals in long-term recovery. So there's several programs that, go out into the communities and provide education on what mental health is, what suicide prevention looks like, what addiction is. And the people providing those education courses are individuals who have lived that and have walked that path. And so it's also bringing to light that, you may have struggled with these things, but it doesn't mean you can't have a fulfilling life. And so it's providing an example to others who may be experiencing similar things to be able to be okay with asking for help because there's this individual standing in front of them who was there, done that. So I think that's the other piece of it, at least for Tennessee, that we've done a big job of, trying to get that word out.
That jogged my memory too, Christy. I was going to say the work that under Jessica's leadership around our faith-based initiatives, not every community, not every county in our state has a community mental health center or substance abuse provider, but every county and every community has a place of worship. And one of the things that was started under our prior commissioner, Doug Varney, was our faith-based initiative, where we are partnering with places of worship, churches, what have you, across the state to educate them on substance use, on mental health, and what role they can play in supporting people in their community struggling with those issues. We just hit a landmark within the past year where we've certified 1,000 congregations as certified recovery congregations across Tennessee. And I think we'd be remiss not to say that those places of worship have also helped, I think, address stigma within their own membership, but also in the community at large. And that work is being led by mainly, as Jess said, peers, people with lived experience. We call them faith-based coordinators. That also has been a big part of what we've done to address stigma.
Right. I am really excited to hear that we have substantial planning and backed procedure to build on the momentum of what was a catastrophic event for the entire world. There were changes where insurance providers were more willing to pay for things that they wouldn't in the past so that more people can get access, to reduce some barriers. So to hear that Tennessee is incorporating requirements in their contract to ensure these things move forward, to know that you are reaching out to a rich environment of individuals such as the faith-based community and, validating their efforts and their skills to engage community members who have a high level of need is exactly how we keep the momentum going from individuals who never would have thought about seeking out mental health services in any capacity, who pivoted to that in the pandemic. And for various other reasons, with it being more notable, more prevalent, being discussed and talked about across mediums, to know that we have these big pieces of infrastructure set in place to ensure that the change is sustainable and long-lasting is where the work is, and how we make sure the voiceless from earlier that we were talking about, those who have a super high need that generally don't access these services, now have a pathway forward. And projects like this, where we get to highlight and note what we're doing and what the opportunities look like, keeps the train pushing forward. So excited to hear that those things are in place, and that we have leadership that, like the commissioner, who are open to, new ideas and work that's been, peer reviewed, and processes that, work to get the services in the hands of those who most need it. So I love to hear that those plans are either in place or being worked on, so that we can continue the momentum forward. The next question we have is, if you could go back into time, would you have taken a different pathway? Why or why not? And I really love to hear these responses because they're always so interesting. So please, whoever's comfortable, please feel free to go first.
Yes.
So I don't think I would. I feel like, your path is carved out for you before you even really realize it. And I think each experience that I went through has made me who I am today. And so I don't feel like I would do anything differently. Maybe would have chosen a cheaper graduate program. But I think that, each step I took and each experience I had really has helped me develop into the professional I am today. And I would not be able to, implement the programs that I have if it wasn't for all the experiences I had prior to coming to the department. So I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah, Christy, I think probably similar to Jess. I'd be hard pressed to say, oh yeah, I wish I had gone in this direction. There have been times where I've thought, maybe I should have gone into education. I've always been really interested in, services for kids. As a parent of a 12-year-old, I know how hard it is for parents to raise kids, and especially in today's world. But there have been moments over my career where I thought, man, maybe I should have been a teacher. I really enjoyed being in the school environment years ago when I was a school social worker. But those thoughts are fleeting. I really, similar to Jess, I feel like I am where I need to be. And I truthfully feel very blessed to be in the role that I'm in, and to have had every opportunity I've had up to this point. I think there's been a reason for each and every one of those experiences. And I really don't think I would change.
Mhm. I got to tell you, in all the interviews that we've done, not a singular individual say that they would change their pathway.
Yeah.
Everyone says what they've witnessed and experienced has enriched them at a level that makes them the great person for that particular role, whatever type of service they're providing, whatever type of pathway that they are leaning towards or creating for others. So there is something about this type of work that we do that helps identify the
Yeah.
best fit. And I think it's because it truly takes an individual who understands the high level of necessity, of what we do, who is connected to individuals who need this type of support and work. So it's a collaboration of both. It is you meeting a need, but also answering a call where we all figure out that our pathway leads us to the moment that gives us a pathway to be able to serve in the way that best fits. So I've yet to run across an individual say, you know what, I would rather have gone this way versus that. So it's really validated to hear all of the different journeys lead us to, a combined effort to serve all, So really happy to keep our record going. We're batting 100%. The next and last question would be, what would you suggest to young people who are trying to identify whether or not a possible career in the behavioral health field is right for them?
What I would say about that is, um, I think the opportunities within this field are going to continue to grow and grow and grow.
Mhm.
And I think that goes back to what we discussed a few minutes ago with just continued recognition of how important mental health is when it comes to your overall health and so many other elements of life. Uh, you've got more services than ever being created for mental health. You've got more and more people seeking mental health services. It is a growing field, and I don't think the demand for the services is going to stop anytime soon. So I would encourage anybody thinking about, future career decisions, thinking about healthcare, to recognize that behavioral health is going to be front and center moving forward related to the healthcare system in general, my opinion. I also think it's important for people to think about when it comes to mental health and substance abuse services. There's not only opportunities providing direct clinical care, but there's opportunities similar to roles like Jess and I are in related to program development, more macro level work. So you may not have an interest in providing direct services to clients, but you may have a really strong interest in creating programming or program evaluation. Those opportunities are continuing to expand and grow. So I think that's important for people thinking about future careers to realize that if I go into behavioral health, I don't necessarily have to be in a direct clinical service my whole career. Some people may elect to do that. And that's great because we need those individuals. But the opportunities, in my opinion, within behavioral health are going to continue to grow. And most importantly, Christy, it gives you an opportunity to make a difference. And at the end of the day, I think people, one's job is so important when it comes to how they find fulfillment in their life, and to be in an opportunity or to be in a position or to be in a career field where you are making a difference and you're helping, change one's life trajectory for the better. There's nothing like that. And, we often hear and see through our provider network and through the services that we fund about people who find recovery and sustain in recovery, people who have not been able to find gainful employment due to their mental illness, but now, due to our individual placement and support program, they're in a job they always wanted. For someone who's never had their own place to live, now they have their own apartment. They've become self-sufficient. They become independent. those stories are very, very motivating, inspiring. And, we hear about these all the time. So again, I can't say enough about career opportunities in behavioral health. As we said a few minutes ago, I don't think I would change up my career choices at all. So anyway.
Yeah, I feel like Matt said it perfectly. The thing that was coming to my mind was just explore, because there is so much in this field to do. I mean, you can go to school to be a nurse, but you could be a psychiatric nurse and work in this field. You could be a psychiatrist, so you can go and get your doctorate and do all the medical school stuff and still be in this field. There are so many options. As Matt was saying, you can go into the macro level side and do program management, be a lawyer in the field. You could do all those types of things. So just explore and give yourself the opportunity to do that, but also to know that it will be fulfilling. There's a line that my first internship supervisor said to me, and it has stuck with me throughout my career. And that is, each day we plant a seed. And we may not get to see that seed grow, but it will grow and change for generations to come. And I think that is at the basis of what this work is that we're doing. We are planting seeds to make the world a better place. And so that's what I would tell anyone looking to get into this field.
Oh, yes. The variance in the ways in which you help and can help, it's still surprising to me after myself working, 15, 18 years in the field. I love that you can find a new way to offer service and create change across all the fields. It's really so good and so helpful for so many who are trying to figure out where they want to land or what they want to do. So you're absolutely right. Just the difference in the capacities and the skills and the service offered across the individuals who we've talked to in this podcast series has opened even my eyes. Someone who feels like a veteran, who's done this for so long. I am still yet learning that there are new ways that we offer aid and help. So I agree wholeheartedly that there is a niche, opportunity to offer assistance and learn and grow and change within this field. So I just want to, again, thank you both so much for sharing out again about your background and how you got to where you are and the different initiatives that you are part of. This is so useful to those who are deciding their pathways and what their next steps should look like. So thank you so much for both sharing out. Any last comments before we end today?
Christy, I appreciate your enthusiasm and energy. You have a radiance about you, which is awesome. And thank you for what you're doing. It's been awesome talking to you.
Thank you so much.
And I ditto that sentiment. This has been awesome. We really appreciate the opportunity to be a part of the podcast.
Yeah. Thank you both so much. This is a medium that a lot of our emerging professionals utilize. So we are so happy to add it to our trove of resources that we plan on offering now and years to come. I thank you again both so much. And of course, if you have any questions or needs, please feel free to reach out. Thank you both so much and have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to listen to our podcast, brought to you by the Smart Connections podcast from the Smart Center at the University of Memphis, as well as the Pathways to Behavioral Health Careers Project. If you or anyone you know needs any information from the Smart Center, please contact us at 901-678-1636 or email us at smartcenter@memphis.edu. You can also learn more about us at our website, memphis.edu/smartcenter.